Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Lawrence's Let's Plays. Today I'm bringing to you, in lieu of a legendary tier list, like I did with my epic tier list, which is on the channel. Be sure to check that out. I've got a tier list for all the character classes. I'm just going to bring you like a comprehensive list of the legendaries. I'm going to review each one and assign a grade to them based on how viable I think they are in team compositions and where they excel at. Touch on their skills a little bit, not to go into too much details for sake of brevity of this video, to not make it too long. But to my returning viewers, thanks so much for your continued support. If you're new to the channel, thank you as well for stopping by. Nothing left to say. I'm Lawrence. Let's play. Let's jump in here to the gallery. First off, we're going to just start from fighters and work our way down. Salazar is amazing. Why is Salazar so good? In his ult, he bleeds the target. What does bleed do, Lawrence? Deals damage equal to 1% of the target's max HP per sec, and increases their physical damage taken by 10%. Does not stack. Also, restores 3% max HP for every 7 crit hits landed. This can be reduced to every 5 crit hits, so you're going to want to build this guy with crit, because he does have some self-sustain, some survivability where he's able to basically leech to get health back. Also, another important thing to note about him, 6,500 basic attack. It is the highest attack of any fighter in the game, I do believe, and I believe it may be the highest attack of any unit in the game. Where is he going to excel at, and what would I give him as a rating? Well, to be quite honest, he's going to work everywhere, except one exception. You're not really going to use him in anti-air, you're just not going to use him in anti-air arena, as those enemies fly, and he can't hit airborne units. He's not a hero that does that. He can only hit ground-based units. But his ult is crazy strong. It does a lot of damage. 6 strikes, 5 strikes do a certain amount of damage, and then the last strike does additional damage to the enemy. He's fantastic in Guild Boss. You're going to use him in Void Rift. You're going to use him in like sustained DPS arena. You're going to use him in arena other than the anti-air, and also you're going to be able to use him all throughout the campaign. Gear raids, he's going to be usable. Gear raid 2 for sure. So overall rating for him, I'd give him an S+. He's also, because he belongs to the Nightmare faction, which is probably the second best guild boss team you can put together, number 1 being Infernal. So next we're going to go to Volca, who's also Nightmare faction. Here's the thing with Volca, I believe it's tied 110. I'd have to check that to be for certain. Let me jump in here real quick and see. So tied, I believe it's 110. See if I'm right. No, I'm wrong. It's not 110. What is it? Hold up. It's one of these tied levels. Where is it? It's hard to see it, but anyway, I digress. In one of the tied levels, once you beat it, you get a specific Volca stone, and why that's important is the main reason you use Volca. If you go into her awakening, because certain heroes have their own awakening stones, and you'll find those in the shop. Allies revival time reduced by 25%. That is huge. That's really big in a lot of different areas content wise. As far as the damage she does, I'm not really sold on her damage. Like, would I choose her in place of like Zillu or Salazar or like Arrogance or Abomination? No. But I would put her in my team comp if I feel like it's a stage that maybe I don't have the best healer and I might lose some heroes, for her to reduce the revival time. And she especially works in concert very well with Laurel, who Laurel typically you put down and then you immediately recall, so she boosts the rage of 2 of your units in her heal range by 50%. So wouldn't really use her very often, other than just putting her in the team comp for the minus revival time once you beat that tied stage, which I believe it's 100 or something. I forget which one it is. So overall rating for her, you can use her throughout. Like, she'd be helpful in the campaign. She'd be helpful in a lot of different areas when you're just trying to reduce revival time. I would give her an overall rating of a B+. Zillu. Zillu is amazing. First and foremost, she is the queen of Guild Boss. Valyria might have a say in that, the new Chaos Dominion chick, but I would say Zillu is still number 1. She's an absolute monster. What makes her so good is her ult. Will of Hegemony. It lasts for a ridiculous amount of time. It does a ridiculous amount of damage, and also provides burning. 20% magic damage per second. Burning effects from different sources can coexist. This alt can last for up to 35 seconds with full skill ups, and I will look at her awakenings real quick and show you that if you're fortunate enough to have an A3, extra copies of Zillu to get her to A3, will of hegemony duration plus 10 seconds, which is quite nasty. Actually, I do want to show one more thing about her. 100% damage to one enemy, that's, whatever. Includes airborne units, so this is very important to note that she can be placed on the ground as she is a hybrid fighter / ranged damage dealer, and also block targets take 20% more damage, which is great because her passive flows into that, charges energy after 3 seconds and not dealing damage, increases damage by 5% per second up to 25%. The charged energy will be consumed in 1 second, and the damage increase will end. The damage increase goes up with skill ups. Why this is important is because the best way to put Zillu to, regardless of the content you're using her, is directly behind a solid defender, like a Captain Reeve, like a Regulus, like Brocure if you were fortunate enough to get him, or Olag, because she's not really going to be taking damage. They're going to be blocking the damage, so this is how she avoids the damage and ramps up her own damage. She is amazing. Again, she is part of the Nightmare faction, second best faction in the game for Guild Boss. So again, she's unbelievable in Guild Boss. She is the queen of Guild Boss. You're going to use her in campaign, Void Rift. Gear Raid 2, for sure you can use her on the ground to face the Zillu boss to help deal damage to kill her as quickly as possible, as that's one of the key components, is killing Zillu as quickly as possible in the later stages so she's not spawning the ads over and over. And also, pretty much anywhere. You're going to use her in all kinds of places in the game. She's absolutely an S+ as well. Valkyra. What I like about Valkyra is if you get her Awakening 1, which I do not have yet, it does increase her attack range, which is nice. She actually does quite a bit of damage. She's pretty solid, and also she does inflict vulnerability magic damage on enemies on her basic, which means that they, as soon as I select it, magic damage taken is an increase of 15%. Her ult, she increases her own damage by 40% for 20 seconds. Also, that goes up. Duration 5, so for 30 seconds. So she's ramping up her damage quite nice. And if you see in the little window there, her attack range, it looks quite cool. I love the animation on it, how she kind of, darts forward with her sword and stuff. But she's pretty solid. Immediately revives one allied unit in range and restores 50% HP for them. This effect can only be triggered one time per deployment and does not revive the hero herself. So she actually has the ability to revive her allies too. She attacks with magic damage. She's quite solid all around. I do have her. I don't have her at A1 yet, but she's pretty solid all around. You can pretty much use her throughout the game. There's just places I wouldn't use her. I wouldn't use her in Guild Boss because she's part of Northerner, which is not one of the best teams to put together for a team comp. But throughout the campaign, for sure, you can use her. She's a very solid hero, and she has really nice range too, especially if you get her at A1. Arrogance. Well, he's amazing, absolutely amazing. I did not get him during his banner, which I was very upset about. He has a talent. Demon Bow inflicts burning on the target. Demon Blades in normal stance. 30% chance to increase hero's attack speed by 40. Stacks up to 3 times, so you can boost his attack speed up to 120 for 10 seconds. You will get his ult. This hero enters Berserker stance, dealing 280% damage with each attack. Launched, increasing basic attack range. When attacking any distant target, the hero's weapon transforms into a demon boomerang. A boomerang deals AoE damage equal to 20%. So what's important to note about him is that he, like Zillu, is a hybrid fighter. He's a ranged / melee unit, so he can be used in all kinds of content where there are flying enemies and ground-based enemies. So he is going to be really good for you all around. His damage is bonkers. He does fantastic damage. You see that he has very high attack at 5248 for a fighter. One of the best fighters in the game. One of the best heroes to have in Guild Boss. I wish I had him for Guild Boss. You're going to be able to use him in campaign. You're going to be able to use him in Void Rift. Pretty much anywhere you can think of, you can use him. You can use him in anti-air arena, just like Zillu, because they both can also hit airborne units as well as ground-based targets. S+ all day long. Arrogance, or not Arrogance, Abomination. Multi-target attack. 20% AoE damage to all enemies in front when he charges his attack through his basic. Boundless Endurance. This one's interesting because it is an automatically activated alt, you do not manually activate this. Triggers automatically for 25 seconds. Increase max HP by 50%, so it's giving him some survivability. Also extends his own attack range. Reduces physical damage taken by 20%. Again, more survivability. So kind of like a hybrid defender and fighter. Attacks all enemies in range 2 times each time, doing 60% AoE damage. And again, another hero that provides burning. He's doing 5% magic damage per second. It's a lot less burning than Zillu and Arrogance provide, but you know, 5% more damage is 5% more damage, and it does get skilled up to 10% magic damage per second. So all around, he's pretty solid, increasing his own attack speed on a passive. When his HP drops below 40%, he does gain invulnerability. It lasts for 4 seconds and then restores HP equal to 30% max HP. So like I say, he has a lot of survivability. His damage is not bad. He can actually smack real hard. You see his attack is 58-64. It's quite high. So he is very usable throughout as well. You can use him in Guild Boss for sure with a Nightmare team consisting of, like, you know, an Arrogance and a Salazar, for instance. He'll be putting out quite a bit of damage. He's really solid all around. I would say you can use him in most places in the game. There's certainly going to be places he won't be able to be used, like anti-air arena. I wouldn't see using, or you're not going to use him in Gear Raid 3 because of all the flying enemies. He's not going to benefit you at all. But for the most part, you'll be able to use him in a lot of content. I would give Abomination, give him an A. His damage is solid. He does a lot of damage. His basic attack is quite high, and he has a lot of self-sustain. Now let's go into Araka, the Piercer Lord. God, I wish I had me an Araka. Why is Araka so good, Lawrence? Well, let me tell you. Really, you only got to look at one thing with Araka. Her Lord skill. She increases the basic attributes of all allies by 15%, but for every 1 tile away from the target, increases the damage of her star piercers by 5% up to 50%. That is throughout the entire battle. That is crazy. And also, she doesn't even have to be deployed. You just simply have to have her in the Lord skill position in your team comp, and they're going to benefit from this. And there are a lot of stages where there are flying ads that enemies are quite a bit away, and your ranger's able to hit them when they're further away before they even have a chance to attack you. Hell, a lot of times even before they have a chance to move, and they might be 5 or 6 tiles away. And I mean, look at the damage increase you're getting. Like, it's just nasty. Herself, overall damage, I'm not a big fan of her damage. It's not really all that great, but I would use her for sure for her Lord skill. That's the main reason why you're going to use this chick. You look at her hero details. 4,713 attack is not horrible. It's actually pretty solid. But again, I wouldn't use her based on damage. I would only use her for her Lord skill. But that Lord skill is so impactful. There are so many areas in the game that you want that extended range that she provides and the extended damage she provides. It certainly would have made my GR3-19 finally stage clear to 3-star that a lot easier had I had her as the Lord, just to get that Lord skill. But anywhere where there's flying ads that you want to hit from a distance, I mean, she's fantastic. She is part of the Starpiercer faction, which is it's an okay faction against Guild Boss, but again, Nightmare and Infernal is where you really want to go with that. But overall, she's very usable. Throughout the campaign, she would have definitely helped me. I could see it helping a newer player if you were fortunate enough to pull her because of that extended range. Because Starpiercers, and I have a video on this, be sure to check it out. Starpiercers are my favorite faction in the game. Overall, I think they just have the best overall damage dealers when it comes to not only legendaries, but even the epic legendaries. Some of them are quite good. Some are some of the best in the game, like Tariel, now known as Idril. But anyway, that's Araka. Overall rating for Araka, I'm going to give her an S. I'm going to take it down from an S+, just because of the fact that I don't think that using her in battle is that impactful, but her Lord skill is just amazing, and it can be used throughout the game for your Starpiercers. Lugaru, Chaotic Nightmare, Fighter. So, the thing with Lugaru is he also bleeds, much like a Salazar. He kind of reminds me of Salazar, but you see he's attacking with kind of like a sword that he summons. Reduces the cooldown of Lethal Strike by 7 seconds. Additionally, Lethal Strike ignores 30% of defensive targets inflicted with bleed. This effect lasts for 15 seconds. Skill up goes up to 20 seconds. He also has a talent Lethal Strike every 12 seconds. The hero consumes 20% of his own current HP to trigger Lethal Strike one time, dealing 180% damage. When the HP is below 50%, the damage increases to 60%. So he can do quite a bit of damage. Also, every 1% passive of max HP loss increases attack speed by 1 up to 50. We look at his base stats. He's very high. Attack 6172 is quite high. He does do a lot of damage. The thing with the Chaos faction is they are a bizarre faction because they are the faction that just, look, one deployed deducts 40% of his current HP immediately and increases 4% attack. It's like this faction is designed to want to die, to do more damage, which is really a bizarre mechanic. I mean, it's interesting, but I'm not a big fan of it. Increases damage in the arena by 15% is quite good, so obviously you're going to see he's very good in arena. Overall, like, his base stats are crazy high. Like, he has really high base stats. So I can see him being usable all throughout the game. Campaign, you could certainly use him in campaign. You might run him in a guild boss team because of the bleed that he's applying to the boss, to the guild boss. Rating for him, I'm gonna give him like a A. I know in arena he's certainly going to be rated higher than that, I would say, but just because of the 15% boost to damage in arena. But overall, I would say he's like an A, because again, I'm just not a big fan of this. I'm going to lose health to do more damage. Appan, which some people call Aspan as a joke. I don't know, I think people meme this guy out, but I don't think he's really all that bad. For every 2 basic attacks landed, triggers Piercing Javelin. This is his talent that penetrates 2 enemy targets, dealing 100% damage. Airborne units take 150% damage instead. So he's actually doing more damage, because you see he is actually a Piercer fighter. So he's another one of those hybrids like Zillu, like Arrogance, that can hit flying adds as well. Penetrates 3 enemy targets and deals 4% damage to them. Airborne units take 650% damage instead, so that's quite a bit of damage. And you see with skill ups, it goes up another 100%. The damage to the ground base, excuse me, but the airborne units actually can take up to 700% damage. It's only a 450 max rage cost, which you get to reduce down to 400 with level 5. Yeah, he can deal out quite a bit of damage. Deals extra damage equal to 50% of attack for 10 seconds on his auto. Within 15 seconds of deployment, every basic attack triggers Piercing Javelin, which we know Piercing Javelin, yeah, is his talent. Yeah, he's actually quite strong. 4683, his attack's a little bit on the low side. Well, on the low side compared to some of the other piercers. But yeah, he's solid all around. Keep in mind that since he is a hybrid fighter and piercer, he is only blocking 2 units. I wish he did block an extra unit, but that's kind of reserved for defenders. But all around, I think this guy's pretty solid. I don't have him, as you can see, because he's grayed out. But I do think he's pretty solid. I could see him being quite good in anti-air arena. I could see you using him in the campaign. Also, I could see you using him in Gear Raid 3, because he's another one of those hybrid units like Zillu, like Arrogance, that you could put right down in the middle to help nuke down the Zillu boss as quickly as possible. So overall, I'd give him a rating. Based on the damage, his damage is quite nice. I'd say he's an A+. I'd give him an A+. And then we got Valyria, who I just recently summoned. This is my most recent hero, and from my understanding, she is really, really good in a lot of areas. So let's see what's so great about her. In the talent, she has increased attack and defense as HP drops. When HP drops to 30%, the increase peaks at 60%. So she loses health. She's a fighter, so she'll be losing health because of taking so much more damage, being down on the in the trenches, so to speak, down there with the defenders. She's increasing her damage quite a bit, which is nice. Let's look at her talent. Blood Infusion, manually activated alt. Deal damage 80%. Each attack consumes 10% of the current HP and generates 1 stack of power of the sword, up to 8 stacks. Hero cannot be healed during the skill. When the skill ends, deals 400% burst damage to the main target and 4 targets around them. That's a lot of damage. Damage increase goes up another 40%. The burst damage goes up 40%. Max rage cost 1,000. You can reduce that to 900. Initial rage plus 200. So she can get her initial rage to 700, and a max rage of 900 is required. That's actually pretty damn good. It is only a 16-second duration. I like to see in these skills where the duration of heroes' ults increase. She does not have that. That's unfortunate. But that's quite a bit of damage. Smashes the target, dealing 240% damage, inflicting vulnerability, physical damage. We all know how powerful that is. Physical damage taken to that enemy plus 20%. Keep in mind, again, that's not just damage she's producing, she's also applying that so the team is able to do more damage. During the ultimate, each attack reduces plunging slashes cooldown by 2 seconds. When HP drops below 30%, restores 2% HP per sec. Triggers the following effect instead. During the ultimate, the hero enters the unyielding state upon taking fatal damage and dies immediately when the ultimate ends, which can be triggered up to 1 time per deployment. So that's one of those, again, showing off this faction's I want to die kind of thing to do more damage. That's really weird. I wish that wasn't included, to be honest. The vulnerability physical damage is great, but changing the ultimate to where she has the unyielding status, and then after casting the ult, she just immediately dies. I'm not a huge fan of that. Reduces the hero's cost in the arena by 4. That's quite nice. Her cost is 17. That would reduce it to 13. So in summation overall for her, I know she's supposed to be really, really good in the arena. I have not tried her yet. I've not even started building her. I could see her being really good in arena for sure. I could see her being, other than anti-air, but the other ones for sure. I could also see her being really solid in Guild Boss, even fitting her in with a Nightmare slash Infernal team. I could see her being really solid there as well. I could see her really helping you throughout the campaign. The problem with that, with getting her though, is that she's extremely, extremely rare. I was really surprised I got her. She's part of a brand new faction that was introduced within the last month or so, and those are very hard heroes to be able to summon, so that's kind of a knock. It's difficult to get her, but if you get her, I'd say she's really, really solid. I would probably say overall I'd give her an S. I know her damage is quite good. Let's look at her overall stats, because I didn't check that, because I think they're quite high. Yeah, 6,172 is quite high for a fighter. So yeah, I would give her an S overall. And finally in the fighters, Cerberus. So Cerberus is part of the chaotic faction as well, but what's cool is he also has dual citizenship, we'll call it. Dual membership into the cultist faction as well, so he benefits from a cultist lord like Morrigan, or if you're not fortunate enough to get Morrigan, you get Aeon, like through this shard summoning that's going on now. I'm so happy they're doing that, because I did not get Morrigan, so we'll at least be able to get Aeon to get the epic lord of the cultist faction. So what does he do? First off, let's talk about his talent. He summons a Water of Decay at the location of the enemy with the highest HP at the cost of 20% of his own max HP. Again, continuing with this theme of these heroes from the cult, or the chaotic faction, Chaos Dominion they're called, want to kill themselves to do more damage. He, at the end of 20% of max HP every 14 seconds, inflicting 30% AoE damage every second for... can't read it. 6 seconds. Whenever this hero takes damage, the cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds. This hero cannot be healed or revived by allies, and each death extends the revival time by 30 seconds. So, that in and of itself is a big negative to me. So, he can never be healed, so no healer can heal him, and if you have someone, if you're fortunate enough to have someone with a revive, like I do with Valkyra, he can't be revived either. Really bizarre. Spectre Minded. During the ultimate, increases damage by 70%. Additionally, each instance of damage dealt will inflict a 50% slow, which is great. Slow is a fantastic debuff in this game, a little bit better than stun in my opinion, on the target for 15 seconds, and the damage does go up to 100%. The effect duration can go up to 20 seconds. Max rage cap at 900. I would have liked to have seen a boost to his initial rage, so he's 500 and has to get to 900 to be able to do this. But that's not bad. Magic attack basic. When deployed, immediately deals 200% AoE damage to surrounding enemies, and then creates Water of Decay beneath the hero's feet, dealing 40% AoE damage to multiple enemies per second. This effect lasts permanently. That's really cool. 2, 4, 6, and goes up to 10%. So he is going to be doing 40% AoE damage, 50... what was it? I can't count. 4, 6, 8, 10. So is that 50% AoE damage? It just says damage plus 2%. but they both are listed as AoE damage. So I'm not sure which one this is, to be honest. I'm not sure if that's an increase to the immediate damage or the overall damage. But what's important to note here is once you deploy him, this effect lasts forever. So he puts this puddle on the ground, and the puddle just stays on the ground and constantly deals damage. That's actually quite cool, and that damage can certainly ramp up over time. Upon death, also, he generates a ground effect area underneath, dealing 100% AoE damage per second for 12 seconds, and that can go up as well. And that's quite good as well. Also, you'll see that his cost is reduced by 2 in the arena to go from 17 to 15. So he can be solid in a lot of different areas. I could see where he would have helped me in campaign as an early player because of the AoE, because a lot of the problems in campaign is that you're constantly overrun with ground-based units that just overrun you if you don't have enough defenders to block them or high enough DPS to be able to nuke down the enemies as they're moving along the ground or whatever. So ground-based damage, consistent, being deployed, consistent damage is quite cool. I like that. But he does get a big knock on the fact that you can never heal him and you cannot revive him. That's really bizarre. Not a big fan of that, but the damage is quite nice, and the fact that it's continuous damage the moment you deploy him. And I'm guessing that every time you deploy him, he's doing that damage, right? So that could ramp up and be quite nice in campaign. I could see him being used in Void Rift a little bit, campaign. I could see him being used in Gear Raid 1 because of the ground-based effect. It is magic, right? Let me double check. I just jumped out. Didn't mean to do that. Yeah, it is magic damage, so those enemies are highly resistant to physical damage. You really want magic damage dealers. So the fact that he's leaving a ground-based effect, that could actually be really impactful in Gear Raid 1 and Gear Raid 2. So overall, with the one knock I'm giving him, I'd give him an A. You know what? I'll give him an A+, actually, because of continuous ground-based damage every time you deploy him. I don't think it's specified. Does it say first deployment? Let me double check that. Just says when deployed. It's not first deployment, so it's not the first time you deploy him, every time you deploy him. And since he's one of those characters that kind of wants to kill himself anyway, you might be able to deploy him several times during a battle, like in campaign and stuff. So I'm going to give him a solid A+ all around. I could see him being very useful campaign, Gear Raid 1 for sure, and Gear Raid 2 as well. So moving along. Whew. I'm sweating, guys. It's going to be a long video. Okay, let's talk about defenders. Excuse me. King Harz. What's the first thing to know about him? He is the Northerner Legendary Lord. Excuse me. What does his Lord skill do? Periodically grants all faction allies a shield equal to 30% of their max HP and other allies a shield equal to 15% of their max HP. So that's really nice that he's granting all faction allies 30%, and even if they're not part of his faction, he's also granting a 15% shield of their max HP for 20 seconds. Quite nice. So he's actually really usable to help out not only his own team, people that belong to his faction, but other people too. That's really cool. The more faction allies there are on the team, the more frequently it takes effect. The defensive shield of faction allies is increased by 20%. Nice. Also, he has a talent. When King Harz is shielded, his attack has a 20% chance to inflict the enemy with freeze. It is a low percentage chance, but freeze is a pretty solid kind of debuff. Not really used to do damage, but to crowd control. Attacks deal damage to one enemy basic attack. Nothing real special. Deals AoE damage equal to 100% of attacks surrounding enemies inflicting freeze. Now that's a guaranteed freeze. Gains a shield that can absorb damage equal to 50% of max HP. That lasts 8 seconds. Damage dealt goes up. Initial rage. He does have a very high max rage cap, but your initial rage does get boosted up 500, and the skill cost goes down to 1100. So it's not as bad, but it's still going to take you a while to get there to be able to cast this alt. Freeze duration plus 1 second. How long does the freeze last for? 4 seconds. That's actually solid, guys. A 5-second freeze is actually quite nasty. When the hero has any type of shield, reduces his own physical damage taken by 15%. And that goes 6, 9, 15%. Wow, 30% less damage. Every time receiving a shield, increases shield strength by 35%. And that goes up another 25%. Wow. So that's a 60% shield. So someone like Vortex, for instance, who's overhealing his allies, if he overheals King Horrors and provides him a shield, look at how much bigger his shield becomes. That's quite nasty, actually. You'll see he is on the low end of the spectrum as far as attack for a defender, but that's because defenders aren't really attack units. Overall, I do not have this guy. Again, he's a legendary lord, so they're very hard to pull. The only legendary lord I've ever managed to pull is Toror, who will be coming up here soon. I think King Horrors is actually really solid. Northerners, he's really helping them out a lot with a big shield. Also, the fact that he's able to help allies that aren't part of his faction with a shield as well. And when he's shielded, he's even shielding himself more. Like, he's definitely the definition of a tank, of a defender, what you expect. He's going to not deal very much damage, which is block rating. Block rating is 3, that's typical. He's not going to really deal a lot of damage, but if you're looking for a defender to help you hold down lanes, I mean, this guy's pretty damn solid. So all around throughout, he's definitely helpful. Campaign for sure. I'm not seeing the use of him really in arena. You could use him in arena other than anti-air. You could get some benefit out of him, I guess, blocking units, but I would rather just put down a Reeve who's also always providing a slow and putting down like an OLAG who's just an impenetrable wall. But overall, I would say I'd give him an A. I think he's a pretty solid A. Gone. Defender, normal. Damage scales off of defense, so he's a defense scaling defender. There's not very many of these in the game. Increases defense by, look at this, 2% 15 seconds each time taking damage, capping at 30% defense. Look at his alt. Increases block by 3. Grants physical damage reduction, magic damage reduction to all allies in range. That's quite nice. This effect lasts for 10 seconds. Effect duration does go up an additional 5, so for 15 seconds. Wow. All damage reductions plus 20% at level 3. That's crazy. So the physical damage reduction right off the bat is plus 30%. The magic damage is plus 30%. These are big numbers, guys. Wow. And then all damage reductions plus 20. So during his ult, if you have him skilled to level 3, he is reducing the damage of all allies in his range by 50%. That's physical and magic damage reduction. That's quite nice. With up to a 15-second duration, 1,000 max rage cap, 400 initial rage, skill cost minus 100. So he does get it down to 900, 400. And he has to climb to 900 rage to be able to get that. That's really strong. Let's look at his basic. Attacks up to 3 enemies in range. Deals 70% damage to each enemy. Could be skilled up to 90%. Multi-hit on his basic is quite nice. Taking damage has a 15% chance to attack up to 10 enemies ahead. Dealing 300% AoE damage. Hello. Wow. And that increases up to 200% more AoE damage. So 500% damage. Trigger chance does go up to a 25% chance. That is quite nasty. Wow. He is definitely a hybrid defender damage dealer, DPS unit. Passive insensibility triggers when HP drops below 30%. If the hero takes damage below 25% max HP, the damage will be reduced to 10. This effect lasts for 10 seconds, cooldown 90 seconds. Also, if you look at his arena cost, he is reduced by 5. He is a 19 cost defender. Keep that in mind. That's quite high. It will take you a while to get to that. I'm really curious to see what his attack details are. 3128 doesn't really. You wouldn't think that he was really doing quite a bit of attack, but he really is doing quite a bit of damage. That AOE and wow. Okay. Gone, my dude. You're quite strong. I would say all around, I could see him being extremely helpful in like campaign, anywhere where you need to reduce your damage taken, like Gear Raid 2, he's going to be fantastic. Void Rift, wow, this dude is really solid. I would give him an S+ for sure. I can see him being extremely good in a lot of different areas in the game. Regulus, Defender normal. I love his design. I'm a Leo birthday, born in August, so seeing a lion in the game, I'm really down with that. That's really cool. Deals magic damage to one enemy, increases defense by 5% for every one enemy he blocks. He blocks up to 3 enemies. Okay, so he's boosting his defense when he blocks up to 3 enemies to 15%. Quite nice. Increases Regulus' max HP by 40% while sharing 40% of damage dealt to allies surrounding him for 12 seconds. That's quite cool. So he's able to share his damage with the allies, or share the damage that are dealt to the allies. Nice. For every 14 instances of damage taken, inflicts stun on all blocked targets. Doing 110% damage, this effect can be triggered for 1 time every 10 seconds. When Regulus' HP drops below 10%, he summons Holy Shelter and becomes immune to all damage. For 8 seconds up to 1 time per deployment, and that can be increased up to 12 seconds. Nice. I like that. Cannot take any more damage. Complete invincibility when his HP drops below 10%. So what is he? He's because you see his attacks really low. He is the true definition of a defender, isn't he? Defending, lanes, holding down lanes, providing some support to his allies by doing the damage sharing. Quite good. Again, someone I don't have. I'd really like to have him. I'm a collector. I want all the heroes. So I can see him being really solid. I would like to see him after doing Gone, reviewing Gone, giving him a letter grade. Man, that's hard to top. I wish Regulus was doing a little bit more damage. But as far as a true defender, if you're looking at just a true defender who's holding down a lane, who's providing a little bit of support to their allies, this guy's quite solid. I would say all around, I could see him being very useful. Void Rift, Gear Raid 2 for sure. I could see him throughout the campaign where he could help you, holding down the lanes, assisting your allies. I'd give him, oh man, I don't know. I think I'd give him a, there's better options to him. That's the thing. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna. I didn't think that there could be 2 S pluses here, but I believe that there probably is. Gone is an S plus. I'm gonna give Regulus an A plus. Let's give him an A plus. And the reason why is because some of the heroes coming up are just a little bit better. For one thing, Toror is the legendary Lord of Nightmare. This is the one legendary Lord I have. His talent is amazing. Each attack inflicts defense reduction on the target for 5 seconds. Additionally, when Toror is deployed or revived, increases his attack and defense by 30% for 15 seconds. Defense reduction minus 20%. Quite nice. Each attack, reducing defense. Deals 100% damage to one enemy. His ult, after activating, increases self-attack speed by 80, damage dealt by 80%, attacks multiple enemies within range for 20 seconds. All that good stuff. He also can inflict a stun. The big thing with him is the Lord skill. So when you deploy him, all allies gain up to 35% attack speed. Respectively, this is based on how many allies in the Nightmare faction are deployed. Faction allies basic attack also has a 30% chance of landing an extra hit, which is really impactful for someone like Salazar, because as I showed you, his basic attack hits one enemy multiple times, so he's doing multi-hits on the same enemy. So to give him a 30% chance of landing that extra hit is really impactful in Guild Boss for sure. The one knock on this faction is that they do reduce their own healing by 15%. 45-13 attack is not horrible. Torador, based on that Lord skill, increasing the attack speed, because obviously the faster you attack, the more damage you're going to get out, and the 30% increased chance for his allies that share his same faction, Nightmare faction, to deal an extra basic attack is quite good. I'm going to give Torador an S+. I think he's an S+. Captain Reeve. Absolutely my favorite defender in the game. For one reason, he was a limited time summon hero. Good luck if you got him. If you didn't, you're gonna have to wait a long time probably before this guy comes back. His was a very limited time summon. We know that they increased the pity from 200 to 250 just to get this guy. I was fortunate enough, I think, after about 110 summons I got him, which was quite fortunate. I love this guy. I love his design. I'm really big into the kind of like ghostly pirate kind of stuff, being a player for a long time of Sea of Thieves. For those of you that get that reference, be sure to leave a comment in the and on my channel. Let me know if you also have played Sea of Thieves. But what I like about him is I actually built him as a hybrid defender and damage dealer, because he does do magic damage, and his damage is not bad. For every 4 enemies killed, increases attack speed by 10 permanently, up to 100. That's quite nice. Increasing his own attack speed, which is important for him because he has a very high attack interval. You're going to want to reduce that with providing attack speed. Deals 100% damage to one enemy. So his ult, during the ultimate, each attack deals 200% AoE damage to multiple enemies around and inflicts stun on them. The effect lasts for 20 seconds. This effect can go up another 5 seconds, so it can last for 25 seconds. The stun duration is a 1 second stun, but can, with max skill ups, go to 1.5 seconds. Stun is not quite as impactful as slow in this game. Slow is a better debuff, but stun can really help you a little bit, not quite as much. Stun just doesn't seem to be as impactful, but any chance you have with stunning or slowing the enemies, stunning just makes them not be able to do anything, but slow just kind of slows down their movement speed. And based on the hero, you can have like a 50% reduction in their speed or a 75% reduction in their speed. I would definitely prefer to have the slow versus stun. But here's what makes Captain Reeve so good. Passive inflicts slow on 5 enemies in range. Slowing targets can go up to 10 enemies. So he can slow down enemies on just a passive. If you look, when you deploy him into a battle, he has a brine shield that goes around him, that circles around his body. And he can slow up to 10 enemies every single time he's on the field. And his movement speed slow is minus 50%. When attacking enemy targets under control, restores 3% of max HP, so he has some survivability. Also, what makes him so good? Obtain hero Razak to unlock the following bonus effect. Gold obtained through battle is increased by 6%. And also, if you have Razak, you increase your XP potions by a certain percentage. And all told, if you have both Razak and Captain Reeve, of course it's dependent on you having both of them, you get a 12% gold increase and I think it's 10% gold increase and a 12% hero XP increase, which is quite nice. See, his attack is not bad at 4426. So like I said, I build him as a hybrid. I build him to do some damage. His slows can be quite impactful because they can really help you slowing an enemy down, allowing your stronger DPS units like your mages and your marksmen to get more damage off on the enemies. And since his slow is just a continuous passive, with max skill ups, he's slowing up to 10 enemies. That can be quite good. So overall for Captain Reeve, I can't rate him as high as the other ones though, as much as I want to, because I absolutely love this guy's design. I think he has one of the coolest designs in the game. I'm so happy I was fortunate enough to get him based on how limited this hero is. Because if you don't know, if you didn't summon him during his limited manner, until Moonton would decide to bring him back again, you can't summon him. I don't believe he's even put into the pool, so you can't summon him in the pool. Overall, I'm gonna give him an A. We'll give him an A. I think overall solid damage and some CC to go along with it. I think it's quite nice. Here's another defender, someone who scales off their damage off their defense. Damage scales off of defense. When the Iron Hammer is in the heated state, attack has a 30% chance of inflicting the enemy with stun. Attacks and deals 100% damage to one enemy. Each attack builds up energy from the hammer. After 10 strikes, the hammer enters the heated state. Tempering strikes. Each strike causes 120% damage up to 5 enemies in front of the caster when the skill is activated. When the skill ends, removes the hammer's heated state. He increases his own attack by 1% for each attack with his passive, up to 10 stacks. Gains an extra 10% defense, deals 10% more damage when in the heated state. When Tempering Strikes is active, every striker will apply a buff to one random ally within 3 tiles based on the current status of the hammer. Normal state applies a shield equal to 90% of the hero's defense for 10 seconds. Heated state applies both the normal state buff and damage increase. I gotta be honest, I don't know a lot about this guy. I just know that he's kind of a meme a legendary meme of the game. If we look in his ratings, you see he is quite low in most areas. So I will base my review on him on just pretty much every content creator that I've watched pretty much universally pans this guy as saying like, yeah, this guy's just no good. So a B, maybe, I don't know. I mean, if you didn't have another defender option, some of these better options, I mean, he's going to help you regardless. He's going to defend and block so many units, and he's going to deal a little bit of damage. Damage multipliers don't seem to be like that high, so I would, I guess, give him a B. Honestly, probably a C. Let's just say he gets a C. And then we're going to finish off with Brokir. Is that the last one? Yeah, Brokir. So Brokir, I was not fortunate enough to get during his event. I have been fortunate enough during these events targeting specific heroes to summon for. I've gotten pretty much every one of them, but I did not get Brokir, and I did not get Arrogance or Razak. I eventually got Razak, but it was outside of his banner. So those were the three that eluded me during their specific events. But from my understanding, Brokir is amazing. Let's go into his kit. Gains freeze and a shield equal to 80% of max HP during the effect of freeze. The freeze effect will disappear with the shield. So this is a guaranteed freeze. Wow. It's a freeze for 10 seconds, y'all. That is a long friggin' freeze. Wow. Also, shield strength goes up another 40%. Skill cost minus 100, which he definitely needs because that's a high rage cap. Initial rage plus 400. Okay, so he goes down from 1,000 to 900, and he has an initial rage cap at 400. So 400 to 900. It's going to take him a little while to get there to be able to cast the ult, but it's not horrible. Let's talk about his talent. Reduces adjacent allies' damage taken by 10%. If the hero is inflicted with freeze, the reduced damage is increased to 30%. Nice. Basics probably just, okay, one enemy. Receiving damage has a 10% chance to inflict freeze on 2 enemies in range. If the hero has freeze, the chance will be increased by 20%. The trigger chance goes up. When receiving fatal damage for the first time, the hero gains freeze and becomes immune to all damage for 8 seconds. Wow. So he's freeze. If he's going to die, he's going to freeze every enemy in his range and become immune to all damage for 8 seconds, which can be scaled up to 12 seconds. That's quite good. Wow. I do want to look at his awakenings. Inflicts freeze on up to 5 enemies around when the shield from the ultimate is gone. When the hero is inflicted with freeze, increases receive healing and shield effects by 20%. What's his big one? When Iceberg expires, restores 100% max HP. Wow. Wow. So, if you were fortunate enough to get him to A5, if you receive fatal damage, he freezes all enemies in range, becomes immune to all damage for 12 seconds at the max rage or at the max skill up. And when Iceberg expires, he also comes back to life with 100% of his health. That is quite nutty. Wow, that's really good. His attack is very low. You see 30-24. Again, you don't expect defender's attack to be high to begin with, but I'll tell you what, this freeze is nasty. Freeze providing a shield. The freeze duration is long. He's not really there to do damage, but he is CCing the hell out of the enemies. He's able to come back to life. I mean, he's the true definition of a defender. I mean, I can understand why people rate him so high. If you look in the reviews don't lie in this game. Typically. I mean, some people will get a hero and just rate them really high, but I would say that this is pretty damn accurate. Artifact material raid, faction trial, gear raid 2, tide, gold raid. He's going to be amazing in all kinds of areas. There's going to be some places you're not really going to use him. Obviously, you won't use him in anti-air arena or anything like that, but yeah, I'm giving him the S+ because based on actually taking the time to read his kit, it's quite nasty. The freeze duration is really long. Being able to revive himself with full health if you had him at A5, but even if you didn't, just to be able to ignore damage for like 12 seconds, that's crazy, and hit enemies with a freeze. Wow, that's quite good. So based on reading his skills and actually, you know, other people's comments, other content creators, I would say, yeah, he's S+. He's S+ all day long. Let's go to the Marksman. Yay, my favorite faction in the game, guys. Our favorite character class, excuse me, in the game. Are absolutely Marksman. Hatsit. What do you got to say about Hatsit? Hatsit is not only probably the best Marksman in the game. She is arguably the best hero in the game. That's pretty much the consensus. Oh, I also didn't get Hatsit during her banner. Shit, I forgot about that. Really want her because she's amazing. Why is Hatsit so good? We're not going to worry about that. Let's talk about her ult. Deals damage to up to 5 enemies nearby, dealing 180% AoE damage every 0.3 of a second, lasting for 3 seconds. You do the math on that, that's a lot of damn damage. It also increases by 10, 20, 30, 50% increase. Skill cost goes down. I mean, she's popping this thing super quick. Initial rage plus 40, initial rage plus 60. So she gets 100, so that's 600. Rage cap 900 goes down to 800, 700. So she only needs to go from 600 to 700 to proc this ult. The ult is just disgusting. The amount of damage it does. What else can I say? Attacks bounce to one more target with her passive Soul Torment. With the damage of each bounce increased by 5%, each enemy hit also suffers from defense reduction. So she's helping out herself and her allies, reducing the defense of the enemies by 10%. And then you got this. Ghastly Stealth passive. When deployed, gains invisibility for 20 seconds. Meanwhile, each kill increases attack by 5%, stacking up to 5 times and lasting for 8 seconds. So an increase in attack, invisibility, where she can still be damaged, but she can't specifically be targeted. It's just unreal. Like, she would make Gear Raid 3-19 so easy for you guys if you have her, because you can put her over there, clear her over on the right hand side, and just handle business because of her invisibility, the damage she does. Unbelievable character. And let's talk about her cost. She's a 12 cost legendary. She's so inexpensive. 37.95 attack, pretty solid. There are better options as far as the basic attack damage overall, but Hatsit's amazing. You can use her everywhere, guys. I mean, everywhere. There's nothing else to say. She is S+. If I could give an S++, she'd be S++. She's that good. Calypso. So Calypso, I think, is a hero. I just recently summoned her, and I'm starting to work on building her. I think people sleep on her, but I think her damage can be quite good. And the big reason is because of her her auto ult that you do not manually activate this one. Summons a Seal Stone that deals damage equal to 20% of attack to the target. Every time Calypso attacks, up to 4 can exist at a time. Skill cost minus 100, so she goes down to 500. Stone damage goes up 5%. That doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're summoning those 4 stones, I know she can actually smack pretty damn hard. After 9 attacks, the next attack deals 150% damage. Each Seal Stone increases that damage by 10%. This goes up with multipliers and skill ups. The caster and Seal Stone gain the Eldritch's God's Blessing every 35 seconds, triggering 2 hit combos on attacks for 6 seconds. And she also is a 12 cost hero. That's a big reason why I'm such a fan of this particular character class, because piercers are extremely cheap. Most of them fall in the 12 cost range. There are some that are a little bit higher. We're going to be discussing them shortly, but they're also really, really good. That's why their cost is so high, because if they made their cost lower, they would just be broken. But Calypso is actually quite solid. My understanding from videos I've watched, you can actually use her in Guild Boss, believe it or not, and she can put up some pretty decent damage. She'd be pretty good in different content throughout the campaign if you had her early on. I didn't. I just recently summoned her, but I could see her being pretty solid. Calypso, anti-air arena, of course, she's going to be great. She's going to be great in any content that has flying enemies. I'm going to give her B+. I think that seems fair. And then we're going to go into Nyx. Nyx is actually slept on. I've got a video about that. Be sure to watch that. The most slept on character in Watcher of Realms. I think Nyx is really slept on. She is actually a lot better than people give her credit for. She is Volka's daughter, as far as the origin story goes. She deals damage to one enemy, but AoE damage equal to 100% attack, prioritizing airborne units. So she attacks specifically. She specifically targets one enemy, but her basic is AoE. After tagging an enemy, deals AoE damage equal to 6% of attack 3 times for 20 seconds. Spinning Fireblade. The damage calculations on this are actually quite high when you get this max skilled up, and this lasts for an increased 10 seconds. So this can last for 30 seconds. You see on the screen here what it looks like. The one thing I'll say is kind of weird about Nyx is that because she's Volka's daughter and she's a vampire, shouldn't she have some kind of lifesteal mechanic? What do you guys think? I don't know. lifesteal, you think? Maybe she should have something like that. She's a vampire, man. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, that damage actually is quite strong. When detonating multiple bombs, increases blast damage by 10% and the blast radius at the same time. The dagger will return to the caster's hand, doing AoE damage equal to 30% of attack to enemies on the path, and that goes up an additional 40%. That's very important to note, this passive, because that means every time she throws her dagger, which is what her attack is, that includes her alt, this damage is increasing because every time the blade returns like a boomerang, she's doing that additional up to 70% damage, which is quite impactful. That's quite a bit of damage. Here's the knock on my girl Nyx. Her cost is bonkers, guys. It's 22, 4,084 base attack, and she has a really high attack interval. So you really need to allocate some attack speed to her to reduce that attack interval for sure, so she's able to get her attacks off more often, especially the alt, because of the duration it has. You want to get as many hits off as possible because that's her bread and butter. So having such a high cost really makes it hard to grade her any higher than I'd say. I mean, I do say she's the most slept on hero in the game. I still stand by that, but I can't say like she's an S or an S plus or anything like that. I'm gonna give her a solid A. She's a little bit better than Calypso. And then we got Silus. I mean, what is there to say about Silus? Was so fortunate that I was able to summon him during his event. Silus is amazing. Period. I'm just going to tell you right now, he's S plus all day long. Not quite the S plus plus that I would give Hatsit, just because Hatsit is probably the best character in the game. Best marksman as well as best character. What makes Silus so good? Couple reasons. He has a talent. He deals 20% extra damage to airborne units. After attacking 5 times, triggers soul sniping on the next attack. What does soul sniping do, Lawrence? Deals 140% damage, ignores only 50% of the target's defense. I mean, I like that. I like that a lot. Also, if a unit within attack range dies, increases damage by 30% for 10 seconds. This is his Blood Pact passive. This effect can be triggered up to 1 time every 20 seconds. And let's go and talk about his ult. Let's talk about his ult for a second. Shadow Cloak. Manually activated ult. Damage increases by 6%, and each attack becomes soul sniping. That ignores the defense and magic resistance of the target for 15 seconds. Again, 104% damage that ignores 50% of the target's defense. That's magic and physical defense. And that increase goes up to another 20%, so it becomes 80%. Effect duration gets increased to 20 seconds. Skill cost duration comes down from 1,000 to 900. Initial rage of 500. Very, very strong. You have no idea, unless you have him, how quickly he can nuke down a single enemy. For single target DPS, I will go on record as saying there is no one in this game that hits harder as a single target marksman and possibly even mage as Silus. Silus just absolutely wrecks. After attacking the same target, this is his Eye of Curse passive. After attacking the same target for 5 seconds, inflicts Eye of Curse. It's a cool little icon. You'll see like a eye kind of appear above the enemy's head. The target for 8 seconds. Eye of Curse will be triggered only 1 time every 20 seconds. Soul Sniping will deal 50% extra damage to targets with Eye of Curse. So when he's got Soul Sniping going on, now he's doing an extra 50% damage. So now the 140% damage becomes 190% damage. And then let's talk about the Piece de Resistance, which makes him so good. Also, keep in mind, cost of 12. Obtain Hero Vierna the Wraith Queen to unlock the following bonus effect. During the effective Shadow Cloak, Soul Sniping deals another 100% extra damage. So now, if you had that skilled up right here, I'm sorry, where is it? Yeah, right here. If you have this skilled up to where it's doing the increased damage, now you're talking about it goes from, where is it? Damage increase 10. Yeah, soul sniping. Yeah, I'm sorry. Then it ends up going up another 100% damage. The amount of damage that he does to a single target, especially when you're trying to take down bosses, is just ridiculous. Like, he is so unbelievably strong. Although, it is important, an important caveat, that you must have Vierna to get that additional damage. So, if you have Vierna, congrats. because it's amazing. I also have him A1, and I want to point out that A1, it makes him even better. Increase attack speed by 100 when Shadow Cloak is in effect. Of course, we know the more attack speed we have, the faster we're going to be able to attack to do more damage. He is unbelievable. Guild Boss, Campaign, Gear Raid 3 for sure. Gear Raid 2, you could use him. Probably be better options because you probably want to use more mages, I would say, in that, and defenders and fighters, obviously, on the ground to tank the boulders. But in Gear Raid 1, I would say he's pretty not worth using because his damage is all physical and you really need magic damage dealers. But all around, throughout the game, one of the best heroes. He's consistently one of my top damage dealers in Guild Boss. He's great in Campaign, Void Rift, anywhere pretty much that you can think that you could use this guy for the most part. Anti-air arena, he's going to be fantastic. S+ all day long. Let's talk about Setram. Setram is, I love his design. Let's talk about that for a second. He's a damn big-ass robot. I mean, big-ass robots are really cool. Fortress Stance, manually activated ultimate. Switches to Fortress Stance and increases attack range for 15 seconds during the skill. Constantly bombard targets with continuous attacks that deal 25% damage and gradually increase attack speed. And are overloaded when reaching the attack speed limit. Self-repair after 10 seconds, which can be reduced to 8 seconds. So that is a knock on him. I will say I love the animation. I love his design. The skill that he does is just nasty, where he's constantly bombarding the enemies with rockets, as you see in the little window there. But I don't like the idea of a hero not being able to attack, even with max skill upset, for 8 seconds. 8 seconds, he's just not doing anything. He's just sitting there like, he's all like broken down and like he's smoking, and you have to wait for him to repair himself, which kind of sucks. Talent, each attack launched, but he does a lot of damage. Has a 20% chance to unleash fists, smashing the target, dealing 104% damage, and inflicting the target with a stun. The fewer the targets in range, the higher the extra damage, dealt up to 20%. Which is quite nice. I see that come off every now and then. It is a stun. It would be better if it was a slow, but a stun does prevent the enemy from attacking entirely. Increases all damage by 10%. Shielded targets take 30% extra damage. This is why Setram is so good. This passive combined with his ult. Because this can go up to an additional 20% more damage to shielded targets. So now it's 50% more damage to shielded targets. I am fortunate enough that mine is also A1. When entering the Fortress Stance, grants buff for up to 2 allies with the highest current attack within range. Deals 30% more damage to enemy units with shields, lasting for 15 seconds. So, when he enters his Fortress Stance, which is right here, his ult, that means against a guild boss's shield has no chance. I'm doing 80% damage to the guild boss's shield. You want to talk about instantly making your account better? Setram instantly makes your guild boss team better because you do more damage, because you're able to get through that shield faster, and he just destroys that shield. It's disgusting to see it in action. When the hero attacks one target multiple times, increases his own crit rate by 1% and crit damage by 2%. Each time for 4 seconds. This effect can stack up to 15 times. So he also can buff his own crit rate and crit damage, so you can build him with a little less crit rate and crit damage. You don't have to focus on that as much, so you can build more on his attack to just make him even better. 4,788 attack is quite nice for him being a marksman. All around solid, especially in Guild Boss. Guild Boss alone, he's S+ all day because of how much damage he can do. He does get a knock because of the duration in which he just can't do anything, where he's the only hero that I have that does that. It's one of the only heroes in the game that has a status like that, where they just don't do nothing for so many seconds during like a cooldown phase. So I'd much rather have units that are going to be attacking consistently. And also, I believe he has a very high, we want to look at that. Yeah, his attack interval is quite high. 3.5 seconds, so you definitely want to put some attack speed on him to reduce his attack interval. So, overall, you can use him in Campaign, Void Rift, Gear Raid 3-19. He was instrumental in me finally 3-starring that. Be sure to check that video out that I put up here the other day. I finally beat it, and I definitely needed Setram to help me with that. Quite good there. You probably use him Gear Raid too, to be honest, as well. Arena, he's going to be solid. because he's hitting ground-based enemies. Being a marksman, he's also hitting the airborne units as well. So overall, I'm going to give Cetrum, I'm going to give him an S. I believe he's that good. In the areas where he really shines, like Gear Raid 3, and where he shines in like Guild Boss and like arena content, I would say that he's an S. Now let's talk about Cratch. I can say I'm fortunate enough. I do not have the Cratch tax. I've not got the, what's his name? The hell is the... it'll come to me. When we get to mages, I might have to wait and see it then. But there's a mage that everyone... Oh, Shamir. The Cratch tax, the Shamir tax, or the Azhor tax. I've not gotten any one of those heroes. I've not been... I'd say not fortunate enough. I've been fortunate enough to not summon them, those being like the 3 biggest like legendary memes of this game that everyone's like, oh my god, they suck so bad. Well, let's talk about Cratch. And this is going to be real simple. This guy's a D. He's D all day long. Why is he a D? For a couple reasons. So if you go in here, fires 3 projectiles at a random enemy range, each dealing 100% AoE damage. When the skill ends, there's a 50% chance to gain misfire. Let me say that again. 15% chance to gain misfire. So he has a 15% chance to reduce his own ability to regen rage. How stupid is that? Why would they do that? That makes no sense. He does ignore 15% of the enemy's defense and his talent, which I will say is quite nice. Ultimate's projectiles will smash. This is a passive target locked. Will mark hit targets for 5 seconds. Mark targets will take 30% extra damage from each attack. The closer the enemy is, the higher the damage that they take. Damage increase is capped at 24%. The closer the enemy is, the higher the damage they take, which really doesn't make sense for someone being a marksman, because you want to do more damage based on how far away they are, like Araka's Lord skill she provides to the Star Piercers. That makes no sense. Like, why would you do more damage based on how close an enemy unit comes if you're attacking as a ranged fighter, or a ranged hero? This doesn't make any sense. Also, let's talk about his cost. Come on, man. He's a 24. He's a 24. Let me tell you who you can get out before him. You can get out Maul, who's an epic, one of the best epic marksmen in the game. He is a cost of 22, but at A5, Awaken 5, his cost goes down 5 to 17. You can also get out a Razak, who both of them blow this guy away. Razak is only a 22 as well. You can get out Nyx, who I would argue is way better than Cratch, at 22. This guy is a 24 cost. He has the chance to reduce his own ability to regenerate his rage. Stupid. I don't like his design, and what he does, what he brings to a team is virtually nothing. He's garbage. D. Moving along. Sargak is another one of these from the Chaotic or Chaos Dominion faction, the whole I want to die and do more damage. So talent, each attack launched has a 10% chance to trigger a Blood Spear, inflicting bleed. That's nice. We know bleed is quite an impactful dot in the game. On the target, if the target is already inflicted with bleed, Blood Spear ignores 50% of their defense. Quite nice. Quite nice. 100% damage to one enemy. Prioritize the airborne units. Let's look at his alt. When triggered, reduces 10% of his current HP per second. Reduces defense by 30%. Okay. And increases attack by 20%. Additionally, each basic attack lands 2 consecutive strikes. Attack increase does go up to 30%. Effect duration is 20. Skill cost minus 100. So 900 max rage it can go to, and initial rage 700. Here's the thing. He's reducing his own defense and his HP. He's reducing his HP 10% for if you skill him up for 20 seconds. He's going to be dead. That doesn't make any sense. Increases attack speed by 6 for every 1% HP lost. The effect of specialized attack speed is stronger when HP is lower. Specialized attack speed provides a greater reduction in attack interval based on the attack speed. Okay. When the target's HP is below 40%, increases the hero's damage by 10%. The target is already inflicted with bleed. Blood Spear will inflict immobilize upon him. That's quite nice. They can't move and do anything. Immobilize can be triggered up to 1 time every 5 seconds. Also, his cost in the arena is reduced. Increases damage in the arena by 15%. So that's quite nice, considering, wow, I mean, his cost is already really low as a 12. But I gotta be honest, this is lame. Reducing your own HP by up to 20 seconds with max skill up, and your defense by 30% just to increase your attack a little bit? Can't say I'm a big fan of that, guys. No. Just not a fan of that at all. Let's see his hero details. And he's got low attack, too. Sure, he's usable. There's certainly better options. I could see where people would use him, but I gotta be honest, I'm not using this guy. I could see where he would be usable. I don't know. You know what? Leave a comment. Let me know where you're using this guy. What kind of hero ratings is he getting? I'm curious. Wow. Yeah. Arena, anti-air, single target, guild boss, gold, faction. Wow. He's rated quite high. I gotta be honest. I wouldn't rate him that high. That's not someone I'm looking forward to using to reduce their own defense and HP and practically kill himself. And damage multipliers don't seem to be all that great. He has low base attack. On the basis of other people's reviews, I'm going to give that guy C+. Does that sound fair? I'm going to give him a C+. I don't have him. I'm not sure. I've never used him, so it's kind of hard to tell. Now let's talk about someone I do have. That is amazing. Got Hex during his recent banner, and he is amazing. Amazing to a fault. And we'll discuss that. So first off, his talent. He gains a card of fate with each attack. When having 4 cards, the hero has a chance to randomly obtain acquire, which is a misspelling there, or a typo, or a redundant statement. 1 card from the following: Transparence, Death, and Strength deals extra damage to airborne units. So what do these do? Temperance, if he draws the Temperance cards, he'll throw 3 cards, each dealing 140% damage while inflicting a 75% slow for 5 seconds. As I indicated before, slow is a great CC effect, and a 5-second slow, 75%. 5-second slow is quite nice. The Death card, 500% damage to one enemy, inflicts burning for 5 seconds. We all know burning is very impactful as dot damage in this game. Increases attack by 30% and attack speed by 70 for 25 seconds if he pulls the Strength card. Basic attack, typical. Let's talk about his alt. Mad Truth, manually activated alt. When triggered, increases damage by 100% and attack speed by 100. Reduces the attack interval by 50% and replaces all cards with the Joker. This effect lasts for 30 seconds. What does the Joker do, Lawrence? Oh, nothing much. Just deals 400% damage 3 times. 1, 2, 3 times. And inflicts burning for 5 seconds. That is 1,200% damage. And on top of that, burning, which is about 20% magic damage for a 5-second duration, I believe. That's crazy. And then the damage can be increased by another 40%. Effect duration, it's a really long-lasting ult. Let's talk about that. The amount of damage he can do during this time, because that can be skilled up to last 35 seconds. Also, he's a cost of 12, so he's crazy inexpensive. His damage, 3897, is a little bit on the lower side compared to some of the other marksmen you could get. Let's talk about his awakenings. During the effect of Mad Truth, that's his ult, there's a chance to draw the full. What does that do, Lawrence? Deals 500% damage 3 times and inflicts a 75% slow and burn the target for 5 seconds. So now you're getting an increase of 300% more damage. Now it's 1,500% versus 1,200%. He's also inflicting a 75% slow, and he's burning the enemies for 2 seconds for more damage. His third is during the effect of Mad Truth, performing basic attacks against targets inflicted with burning extends the duration of Mad Truth by 1 second. So his ult can just go and go and go and go. I mean, if you get it max skilled up, it already lasts for 35 seconds. I mean, and then if you're burning an enemy, he increases the duration by 1 second for every burnt enemy. That's just nuts. Like, his ult reminds me of Tariel, now Idril's ult, Limitless Shots. If you have her A5 and she extends the duration by 3 seconds every time she gets a kill, where it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. It's kind of the same thing with my boy Hex. Hex is amazing. He's so good in so many areas. Gear Raid 3 all day long. He's solid in Gear Raid 3. Solid in Guild Boss. He currently is my best damage dealer in Guild Boss right now in an Infernal team with Pyros as my lord. And yeah, he's solid all around. You could use him in Gear Raid 2. You're going to use him throughout the campaign. He's going to be solid throughout Arena, like anti-air especially. I'm giving him a... I'm going to give him an S. And here's why. And this is why this may seem controversial, why I'm giving him an S. Because the problem with him is the damage is very RNG based. Because you may get Temperance, right? You may get the Death card after every, 4 cards that he's summoned, or you might get the Strength card. So you just never know what you're going to get. It's so random what you may or may not get, so for that reason I'm going to give him an S. I do want to look into his hero details and also show you his attack interval is quite low at 2 seconds. So you could put some attack speed on him and make him attack a little bit faster, but the problem is his ult has a very long animation when he draws the bow, and that can kind of affect the damage he could do. If he attacked a little bit faster, then he could certainly go up to an S+. Razak. Did not get him during his banner event, but I did get him the following week. I was able to summon for him. Razak is awesome, but a very high cost. 22. Excuse me. He is a 22 cost. Each basic attack has a... forget what it is, a 30% chance of generating 2 Soul Eating Fish, attacking one enemy with the highest HP percentage remaining, doing 200% damage. So it kind of reminds me of like a assassin kind of character, in the fact that he's attacking the enemy with the highest HP. 100% AoE damage to multiple enemies. Soul Surge, when Ocean's Clutch ends, enhances the hero's talent, increasing the chance of generating Soul Eating Fish upon each attack by 20%, and his quantity by 2. This effect lasts for 2 seconds. Let's talk about his ult. His ult smacks. Look at the animation in the screen there. That's so nasty. He summons 4 octopus tentacles, deals 700% damage, AoE damage in range, and that can be skilled up to 1000% damage. Skill cost can be reduced from 900 to 800, initial rage cap is 700. So he builds to this ult very fast. That is his absolute bread and butter right there, is the ult, getting to that as quickly as possible. Also, within 10 seconds of deployment, each kill generates 2 Soul Eating Fish. Afterward, triggers 1 time every 30 seconds. And I already told you about his bond skill, where you can if you have Captain Reeve, you get a boost to his gold. Also a boost to hero XP potions. So all around, he's fantastic. I do want to discuss his awakenings. For every kill, soul hunting duration is plus 2 seconds. Soul Eating Fish will also inflict a slow, so he provides some CC. And 5, you gotta be kidding me with this. You've got to be kidding me with this. Like, I want so many copies of him so bad just because of this. Ocean's Clutch has a 25% chance of triggering 2 times. Are you for real? Are you for real right now? 25% chance? That's a pretty solid chance to, if you have this max skilled, to hit enemies 2 times in a row. If you didn't kill him with the first 1000% damage, AoE damage, well, you sure as hell are probably going to kill him with 2000% AoE damage. That's just nuts. That's absolutely insane. Base stats over 4000, pretty solid. Attack interval, he's another one of these characters that you really want to put attack speed on, because he is very slow to attack. So overall, Razak is very solid. I used him in Gear Raid 3-19 recently to 3-star that, finally. He was extremely helpful. He held down the right side for me. So he's great in Gear Raid 3, especially the later content where you really need really solid marksman, legendaries in particular. Also, anti-air arena. Don't see him using Guild Boss, because the thing is with Guild Boss, you don't really want an AoE damage dealer, you want a single target nuker. So overall, usable throughout campaign, Void Rift, Gear Raid 3 for sure. I would use them in a lot of different places. Notice I didn't really say anything about like promotion raid and the gold raids, because pretty much you can put any hero in there and they're going to be usable, especially if they're epic or legendary. But overall, I would give him a rating of A. I'd give him a solid A. I will say that he is my favorite design in the whole game. I think he has an amazing design. Oh my god, we're working it out, guys. Slowly but surely. Healer. let's talk about Elwyn. Why is Elwyn so good? And I'm going to start kind of speeding this up a little bit, so I'm not making this take too much longer. She dispels all debuffs for her allies in range, restores HP equal to 40% of the hero's healing multiplier on her Grace of Nature. So she boosts their rage. She dispels all debuffs. She's an attack-based healer that's actually healing 3 heroes. She also can summon a Wood Elf on her Elf of Force auto that restores HP equal to 100% of the hero's healing multiplier for surrounding allies every 0.5 of a second for 10 seconds. Also restores rage every 5 seconds for all allies equal to 1% of their rage cap. So what that basically breaks down to is 5 seconds, and it goes up to, you'll see the recovery is 3% rage for every 5 seconds. So basically, every like minute and a half, your heroes have full rage with her just being on the field. And she's an amazing healer, does an AoE heal. All around, arguably the best healer in the game. There's not really much more to say about her, other than she's the best healer in the game. She boosts everyone's rage, restoring their HP, debuffing, dispelling any debuffs they have on them if they've been like hit with burning or any kind of debuff like that, or dot damage and stuff. So yeah, she's amazing. What else is there to say? S+. I mean, she's just the best healer in the game. There's not really much more to say. Leia similarly kind of acts like Elwyn. She's attack-based healing as well. 3 allies in range, so multi-heal. Restores 10% rage for all allies. She's also restoring rage. It's not quite as impactful as Elwyn. When the ultimate is triggered, it applies a damage increase to all allies in range and increases their damage by 5% every 5 seconds. So she's also boosting the attack, which is something that Elwyn does not do. So she's doing some things that Elwyn doesn't do, but for the rage and the HP, it's very similar, but the rage isn't quite as impactful. I would give her an S. Dozomi, this is the newest chaotic healer from the Chaos Dominion. Magic Incense is a chance equal to 50% crit rate, lasts twice the duration. Let's see her alt. Hero can heal 2 more allied units, granting them Magic Incense and increasing their defense by 30%. Effect lasts for 12 seconds. What does Magic Incense do? The bearer's HP is higher than 50%. It spells 1 debuff every 2 seconds, otherwise restores their HP based on their max HP and the caster's attack. Interesting. Grants 1 shield to 1 ally in range when their HP drops below 25%. Shield value equals 60% of target's max HP. Entering the field increases attack by 5% for every 25 seconds, staying on it 3 times, which isn't really necessary. Increasing her own attack is irrelevant. It does have less cost though in the arena. She's okay, but she's only providing a 1 ally heal, and she's part of that really weird faction. The fact that she has a passive that boosts her own attack seems weird to me. Wait a second. Let me double check this. Is she attack based? Just says magic. The bearer's HP is higher based on the max HP of the caster and the caster's attack. Okay, so that's why she's boosting her own attack. I stand corrected. I was wondering why she was boosting her own attack, so that does increase. She's an attack-based healer, so she can do more heals. But she's only healing a single target, guys. 2 more allied units on her alt, but as we saw, Leia and Elwyn actually heal on their basics 3 allies. So in order for her to heal 3 allies, she has to cast her alt, which definitely makes her way less valuable, in my opinion, than those 2. So I would say, give her a B. I'll give her a B. And here's Ezran. Now, I used to have Ezran, and I will tell you, I probably made a mistake in doing this. He could have probably helped me in some harder content that I experienced, but I got rid of him because I just had better options, like a Vortex and stuff. To be quite honest, I like Vortex better. But what makes Ezran so good is that, first off, his talent damage taken at a time will never exceed 60% of his max HP. He does grant attack-based healing to 1 ally, but grants a 220% attack-based healing to 1 ally, and also grants them the hero's talent effect lasting for 4 seconds. The hero can cast Verdant Rejuvenation and Lighten Breath on allies beyond his own attack range, albeit with healing effects reduced. So the healing effects are reduced, but he can actually heal someone outside of his own attack range, which is quite cool. And you see he has a pretty decent sized attack range. pretty large attack range. When any ally's HP drops below 30%, immediately grants a 200% attack-based healing to them. So he is only single target healing, but the fact that he is able to heal outside his attack range is quite impactful, really. So I would give him a pretty solid rating. Like I said, I had him. I just had Vortex, and Vortex to me just became a better option because of the overshielding that he provides. But that's pretty. There's pretty unique niche cases where healing outside of your healer's attack range could come in handy. So I would give him an A, because there's definitely places where you have, like, your Marksman, for instance, that are going to be way outside of the range because they're, you know, way over on the other side of the map. To be able to heal them, that actually could be pretty impactful. So I'll give him an A. Carnelian Healer Magic. This is another one from the Chaos Dominion faction. She has a talent. After the hero's healing waves reach an ally without soul essence 7 times, grant soul essence to them. What is that? When receiving fatal damage, the bearer consumes the soul essence and becomes unyielding for 5 seconds. Okay, interesting. Unyielding, as we know, like with Baron skill, allows them to avoid death for so many seconds. Single target heal. Releases a healing wave to one ally in range and grants attack-based healing to the target reached if their HP is below 30%. That's weird. Okay. So on her basic, they have to be below 30% for them to be healed by her. I don't like that. Am I reading that right? Releases a healing wave, attack-based healing, target reached if their HP is below 30%. Grants soul essence to all allies with HP below 30% in range. Does provide them physical damage reduction and magic damage reduction. I am a fan of that. That's quite cool. Deals first AoE damage up to 7 enemies. I gotta be honest, I'm not a fan of this chick. I don't like that. Cost 18. I'm not a fan of this chick at all. I think she may be one of the worst healers in the game. Because you should never have a parameter that states, I'm going to be able to heal you provided your HP is at a certain threshold. I don't like that. Not for to only heal them if they drop so low that they're at 30% or less health. That's really bizarre. I'm not a fan of that, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm rating her a D. I would never use this chick. Sadie, however, I would use. I don't have her, but I'd like to have her. What is Sadie? First off, talent grants physical damage reduction and magic damage reduction to allies in range, and that's just permanent. She just automatically does that. Physical and magic damage reduction plus 15% if you have her on the field. That's quite nice. Grants HP-based healing to all allies in range. I do prefer HP-based healing. That's why I'm such a fan of Vortex. Is I believe the hero that all the hero that all accounts must have. I've done a video on that as well. Be sure to check that out. I think Vortex is amazing because he's HP based healing. So an HP based healer, you just build with a lot of HP, and like they can actually be real tanky and occasionally heal themselves, but for the most part they won't have to heal themselves. They'll be able to heal their allies. And even though he focuses on single target healing, that's a lot. That's a lot to be able to not worry about healing your own healer and wasting a heal on yourself versus your allies. So I do prefer HP based healing, but this is actually quite nice. She's HP based healing to all allies in range instead of attack based. I love that. Physical damage reduction right off the rip. During the ultimate, allies in range only take 50% of incoming damage. That's quite nasty. When this effect ends, they will lose HP equal to the remaining damage over 8 seconds. That's kind of a trade-off, but sounds like it's worth it for the damage reduction. After the ultimate ends, randomly grants one of the following buffs to allies in range. Restores their HP equal to 8% of their max HP every 1.5 seconds, or increases 20% of their max HP. Periodically resists incoming damage 1 time. Cooldown is reduced by 1 second every time the hero takes damage. And her cost is stupid, guys. She's got a cost of 9. Are you for real? So you can put her out on the battlefield really, really quick. Like all allies, of course, she has a revival time of 60. Unless you're using Vulcan, then you're going to reduce it by 25%. But yeah, she's solid. She's a HP-based healer, which I love. Those are my favorite. So much easier to build them for the reasons I explained. And she's Healing all allies. I mean, she's an AoE healer. She's solid, man. She's solid all the way around. She's not quite on Elowen and Leia's level. Again, to recap, I put Elowen as an S+, Leia as an S. I would say I would put Sadie as a A+, and really close to an S. Extremely close to an S. And now we're in the final stretches. Oh my god. If you guys have stuck with me this long, thank you so much. I know this video is extremely long, but I wanted to take a little bit of time to kind of explain these heroes and kind of go over their skills a little bit, what makes them good, kind of explain a little bit of where I think they're usable, and Sadie certainly is usable throughout the game. I'm trying not to spend too much time, but, you know, it's kind of difficult when you're going over like 50 heroes. So if you've stuck with me this long, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's talk about Nocturne. And Nocturne, this last run through mages, I'm going to make it real simple for you. There are a lot of really good mages. There's a lot of really slept-on mages. I think Nocturne is one of them. For one reason, he's dual faction. He's Northerner and Infernal, so he helps the Northerner faction and Infernal. He can deal quite a bit of damage in like a guild boss team if you're using him with like Pyros or Twin Athena as your lord. He actually does quite nice damage. His Impure Wings, each attack increases launch, deals magic damage equal to 180% attack, plus another 150% extra magic damage. Like, this actually is pretty bonkers. And it's a very long duration, much like someone like Hex. You can skill this up to lasting for 30 seconds. When his Impure Wings is on, he increases his attack speed. Each attack launched also has a 50% chance to deal true damage, equal to 300% of attack one time, so that's ignoring all defense. So he actually can do quite a bit of damage. His cost is quite high at 19, I will say that. Wish it was a little bit lower. You see he's got pretty decent attack all around, but he's actually quite slept on. I have him, I think I have him at A1 right now. He is one of the best single target, maybe the best single target magic damage dealers in the game, in fact. So I would give him usable throughout for sure, through different content. You could even use him in Guild Boss. I think he would put out some pretty decent damage in Guild Boss. I'm gonna give him an A. We'll give him an A. And then we got Ajax, part of the Unnamed, the only hero that's in that faction. Basic attack has a 10% chance of inflicting burning. This is what's crazy. His ult is quite nasty. 104% AoE damage per second for 5 seconds and inflicts burning. So burning on the target we know is very impactful. His dot damage, 20% magic damage per second for 5 seconds. And his range. Look at his range. His range is stupid big. Basic attack has 50% chance to cast lightning, add up to 5 targets in range, a chance to do more AoE damage. He also, when any enemy approaches within 2 tiles, he inflicts magic damage or magic resist reduction on them. That's automatically, I think, 15%, 10%, and goes up an additional 30%. So he is very, very solid, especially on something like Gear Raid 1, where those enemies are highly physically resistant, but not magic damage resistant as much. Ajax will really shine for you there. I can see him used throughout the campaign. There's certainly areas that you're really not going to use him. I don't see using him in Arena. Again, I do want to point out real quick, his cost is very high. He's 26. So because his cost is so high, it's going to be much more difficult to get him out. You have better options that are lower cost, as we'll be discussing here shortly. And because of that cost, I would rate him actually a little bit lower even than Nocturne, who I gave an A. I would give Ajax a B+. Shamir is one of those memes of the game. What's he do? Drowning water, movement speed minus 25 against an enemy. It's not very impactful. Unleash an energy ball, 150% damage to one target. Hit him with that drowning water. 15% AoE damage. Like, he's not very good, guys. He doesn't do very much damage. You're inflicting enemies with a slow, but not really a bunch of damage. Not that good. I mean, there's really not much to say. I know that looking at rankings for him, he's listed very low, and he, like Azhor and Cratch are excuse me, the legendary memes of the game. So I'm giving him a D. He's just not that good. Now, Wazir is the most one of the most recent heroes that was released during a banner. Wazir and Hex. Basic attack and Ominous Sandstorm. This is his talent. Apply sand erosion on the target, stacking up to 3 times. Sand erosion. Each stack deals magic damage equal to 10% of the caster's attack per second, and can stack up to 3 times. So that's quite nice. That's a 30% bump in his magic damage. 100% damage to up to 5 enemies on his basic is quite nice. So kind of like AoE. I would still call that multi-hit. Not quite AoE, but definitely multi-hit. His manually activated ult is quite strong. 600% AoE damage to enemies in range and inflicting anti-healing on them, which is quite good. So in a stage, unable to recover HP for 10 seconds, quite nasty. You can increase it up to not being able to recover HP for 15 seconds. Where that is really impactful is the higher stages of Gear Raid 1, because as we know, we fight Elowen, and she's constantly healing with her Nature's Grace, or whatever that damn skill's called on her ult, where she's healing all those enemies at the wall. For him to be able to prevent them from receiving healing for 10 seconds is great, because it basically nullifies her ability to heal them, so you're able to get through the wall faster. I would love to have him, because I still can't beat GR1-19. Every 5 seconds inflicts a slow on adjacent enemies based on their sand erosion stacks, is quite nice. When an enemy with 3 stacks of sand erosion dies within the basic attack range, grants another nearby enemy 2 stacks of sand erosion. This effect can be triggered up to 1 time every 8 seconds. That's quite nice, and it also reduces to 1 time every 5 seconds. If you look at his hero details, 4120 attack is not bad. Attack interval is very slow. You're going to want to build speed on this guy to be able to get the best use out of him, or get the most out of him, basically. Solid all around, but he's more of a niche case to where I can see him used in campaign. You're definitely going to use him in Gear Raid 3 all day long, because you need to prevent them from healing, and also the magic damage that you're providing, since those enemies are highly resistant to physical damage. So I can see him being really useful there. I don't really see you using him in Arena. I don't really see you using him in Guild Boss, because you can't affect the guild boss's healing. Also, because he has CC like slow, you can't affect the guild boss's ability to be slowed, stunned, or whatever, other than when you break the shield, he automatically gets stunned. But you can't inflict a stun or a slow, any kind of CC effect like that. So but for the places where he is usable, he is going to be really strong, anti-healing, and the magic damage that he provides. So I would say I would probably just keep him at about an A. I think he's a solid A in my opinion. Now we get to Zealous. Zealous is one of those heroes that, man, his cost is high. It's 25 now. They did reduce it. It used to be 25 or 29, so it is nice that the devs did decide to reduce it. So what Zealous does is he's AoE, creating a ground effect area doing 25% AoE damage per second to multiple enemies for 5 seconds, which isn't very long, and it's not a lot of damage. His 100% AoE damage to targets in a large ground effect area. Afterward deals 50% AoE damage every second for 10 seconds. Airborne units take half the damage. So he's automatically getting a knock because he is doing half damage to airborne units, which kind of sucks. But it's understandable because he's more ground based. And you see the effect in the window there. It actually is a really cool looking effect. And that can really, really help you in Gear Raid 3, especially the harder content. Also, killing an enemy and his talent increases his own damage by 10% for 5 seconds. Increases the damage caused by ground effect area by 6% per second, so that can be scaled up to another 10%. All enemies in the ground effect area also suffer from vulnerability magic damage. So that's really impactful. So he's not only hitting them with 10% more magic from his own attacks, but he's also allowing his allies to benefit from that as well. The cost, even at 25, he's still a very high cost hero. But at least they did reduce it. You see his basic attack 4479. Really, the only place that I see using Zealous, and I think his attack interval is really slow too. Hold on, let's look at that. Yeah, his attack interval is stupid. 5 seconds, which means that you have to invest a lot of attack speeds, like subs, or even maybe a piece of gear as a main stats attack speed, just to get him down to a reasonable attack interval. 5 seconds is very long. It's going to take a long time for him to attack. To be perfectly honest, the only place that I see that you would really use him to benefit is harder content for Gear Raid 3. Maybe campaign he could be usable. I only really see him being used in Gear Raid 3 and the harder content when again those enemies are very resistant to physical damage. He's providing magic vulnerability on them, so they take more magic damage from his attacks and his allies' attacks. So he could be very useful there for that one niche case. I think he's very niche. Man, it's hard to rate that guy. I would give him... let's just go with a D. No, not quite a D. I'll say a C+. I'll give him a C+. Morrigan's amazing. Morrigan is the cultist lord, or the lord of the cultist faction. Talent: each basic attack launched has a 30% chance to release cursed bombs. So her kit is all around these bombs, much like AI who attacks with bombs. Deals 70% damage to 3 targets, so she is hitting multi-target. Not AoE, but multi-target. Releases a wave of curse bombs at up to 3 targets in range. Her damage is not bad. I'm not really going to go over a lot of the stuff. I just want to go over her ward skill, because this is the main thing that makes Morrigan and why she's so good. She increases faction allies damage dealt to enemies inflicted with stun, freeze, immobilize, any kind of CC by 30%. Right off the bat, just additional damage. And also, again, it's a case where she doesn't have to be deployed. You don't even have to use her. You just simply have to have her in the ward position in your team comp before you enter into a campaign screen or whatever. Increases faction allies AoE damage by 25%. So someone like Vierna greatly benefits from this. Someone like using, what's his name? My boy, Captain Reeve. Greatly can help a team out, because he will constantly be slowing enemies with his brine shield. So they're doing an additional 30% more damage when they come into his range with that circle that goes around him that can actually slow down up to 10 enemies. It's crazy. And then when he stuns them on his ult, your allies are going to be doing 30% more damage. It's quite impactful. 4291. However, I would say the knock on Morrigan is really that I would only use her for a lord skill. I don't see replacing a spot in my main team comp to put Morrigan in, but the lord skill is quite impactful, especially for Gear Raid 3. Again, I'm harping on Gear Raid 3 because, again, the physical damage resistance of the enemies versus their magic resistance being much lower. She greatly will help you in that regard. Throughout the campaign, I could see her being very, very good teamed up with the likes of like a Vierna, Captain Reeve, for instance. I can see her being really good in that regard for sure. Wazir should be amazing. Also, but here's the thing, she's kind of niche in that regard too. There's only so many places I could see you using her. I wouldn't use her in Guild Boss. Maybe you use her in Tide, I guess. I don't really see using her in Arena, to be honest. For the most part, campaign, she's going to shine. She's going to really help your allies. Void Rift and certainly Gear Raid 3 and harder content, I think she's absolutely required to use to be successful in like stage 20 and beyond. So very niche, but she's very strong at what she does, what she provides. You don't even have to deploy her to be able to use her. I'm going to give her an A+. And then we got my boy Comet. Comet is unbelievable. Comet is so good. Let's talk about Comet real quick. Ultimate, each attack deals 30% AoE damage. He does an ass ton of damage. That's all you need to know. The AoE is just nuts. It does a ridiculous amount. Also, upon killing a target, the hero's attack will bounce off to 2 enemy targets, dealing another 100% magic damage. Also deals 100% magic damage to 2 enemies on his basic. His ult is nasty. Every 7 attacks, he also applies Curse. Cursed units are unable to perform basic attacks. The duration goes up. The required attacks gets reduced. He is a monster. He does so much damage at A1. I will point this out. Infernal Plague can bounce up to 1 extra target. So now instead, I didn't mean to jump out of there. Now instead of here where he's only hitting 2 enemies, now he's hitting 3 enemies and dealing up to, with max skill ups, 160% damage. Quite nasty. He is unbelievably good. You'll see he has quite high stats. His attack interval is not too bad at 2.6. You might want to invest a little bit of speed to build that up faster. I will say one thing that is a knock on him is it takes quite a while to build to his ult. So in that regard, getting, although it's extremely powerful, it takes a while to build to it. So you would definitely want like someone to help push you to that ult faster, like a Dolores that you, or not Dolores, I'm sorry, like a Laurel who you can put in and then, you know, recall to build his ult up faster. But he is unbelievably strong. The only place I really don't see using him is Guild Boss. He just doesn't have a place there. No AoE damage dealers really have a place in Guild Boss. You're really wanting to focus on high damage single target nukers. Primarily your mages, your fighters, your marksmen that are doing single target. But all around, he's really solid. He's unbelievably good in Gear Raid 3. In fact, I don't think you beat Gear Raid 3 stage 20 and beyond without having Common on your team. Because here's the thing, what makes him so good. He is a great 1-2 punch for the upcoming hero I'm going to discuss, who is my favorite hero in the game and is my personal bae. Heart. Love her. And that would of course be Vierna. He is a great 1-2 punch with Vierna because in Gear Raid 3 in particular, you get him to cast his ult. He's just absolutely destroying the enemies, getting their health down really low. Then Vierna, you pop her ult where she has the ability to insta-kill everything 30% HP and below, and it's a wrap. Those two in concert with one another are fantastic. And throughout the campaign, he's absolutely necessary. Void Rift, he's absolutely necessary. Geared Raid 3, like I said, higher content you're not getting anywhere without a Comet at this point in the game. I would say the only place also Arena, you also use them in Arena, multiple arenas. I just wouldn't use them in Guild Boss, but all around, he's an S. He's a solid S all the way. Venema is the esotericist lord of mages. Basic attack has a 20% chance to apply curse. Again, we know that makes enemies not be able to perform their basic attacks. When inflicting hex on an enemy, slows them down for 50%. The Serpentine Curse, after a short channeling, deals 480% AoE damage to enemies in the front area, inflicting hex upon them. What does hex do? Receives 20% magic damage from the caster per second. That's quite nasty. But it's a very quick burst. Only lasts for 2.5 seconds. Not a fan of that. I like ults to last longer than that because it really ramps the damage up over time. After attacking 7 times, the next attack deals 90% extra damage and inflicts hex, bouncing up to 2 more enemies. That's quite nice. Her Lord skill, she automatically boosts the rage by 30% of all allies upon their first deployment and reduces the faction allies skill costs by 25%. That's quite nice. I don't have Venema. She's certainly someone I'd like to have. I can see her being usable throughout campaign. I see her being used in Void Rift, I think. Not Guild Boss so much. Not really in Arena so much either, to be honest. There's too many places that I see that you just wouldn't use her. She feels like a pretty niche case to me. So for that reason, but because she's a Lord and this Lord skill she provides are quite impactful to the allies that share her faction, I would give her a B+. I believe she's a B+. And then we come to my absolute favorite hero in the game, my bae, my favorite mage, my favorite hero in the game, one of my favorite designs in the game, Vierna. Why is Vierna so good? Basic attack applies Mortal Kiss on the target, is her talent. What does that do? Deals AoE magic damage equal to 25% of the caster's attack to the effect bearer and the surrounding enemies every second. Airborne units do take half the damage. It's kind of a knock. Deals 100% damage to one enemy. Attack speed bonuses do not affect basic attack. So one thing cool about her is that you do not have to worry about using a main or sub stat as attack speed because it does not affect the damage she does. Also, let's look at her ult. Her ult is just stupid. And by stupid, I mean it's amazing. Reaper's Grasp, manually activated ult, deals 700% AoE damage to enemies in range, kills enemies with HP below 25% after a short delay. Elite monsters and bosses are excluded. If you skill this up at level 3, the execution threshold becomes 10%. This is why I said she is so good in concert with Comet. Comet does a lot of heavy lifting in the beginning, dealing a ridiculous amount of damage, and then you see in this window here, whoosh, she just pulls those like claws out or whatever the hell they are and just rakes them forward with like the chains, and it's insta kill, and she's so unbelievably good. She builds to her rage pretty fast, or to her alt pretty fast too. Skill cost minus 100 goes to 800, initial rage 100, so she has to go from 600 to 800 to be able to cast this. When she kills each enemy, the essence is absorbed into the staff's crystal, accumulating up to 6 souls. Each absorbed soul increases her own attack by 2%. When there are at least 2 enemy targets within the basic attack range, the hero will consume 1 soul to increase the target count of basic attack by 1. So this actually goes, you see soul capacity 2, goes up to 6 more. So then she's absorbing 12 souls. You're increasing her attack by 24%. It's that simple. And then if you get her max skilled at level 5, which I'm still trying to do on this passive, then it goes to 12 times 3. So it becomes 36% more damage. Also, she provides a bone shield to a random ally, which is quite nice, a little help to her team. And I already explained to you about the Silus bond skill. He gets the better of the bond skills in my opinion, but she does provide this bone shield for allies and restore HP equal to 10% attack per second. 4,341, 2.6 attack interval. Unbelievable. Viarna, S+ all day long, because you can use her in Gear Raid 3, and you really need her in the high level stages. She is a monster in Arena. She is fantastic in Campaign, fantastic in Void Rift. Pretty much anywhere you can think to use her. About the only thing knock on her is that you cannot really get any benefit from her in Guild Boss. I wouldn't use her in Guild Boss. And guys, that is my list. Again, if you've stuck around this long, we are pushing almost 2 hours on this video. I try my best to make it as short as possible, but it's difficult when you're trying to go over so many heroes and try to go into their kits a little bit, some of their awakenings in some regards, to kind of explain these heroes a little bit more in depth. Instead, I mean, I could have just made a video that said, hey, that guy's an S, hey, that guy's an S+, hey, I think that guy's an A, or that girl's a B. I mean, what kind of info do you glean from that, and how helpful a video would that be if I just did that? So I did take a little bit more time with these heroes to kind of go over them a little bit and explain to them the rating I gave them and why I grade them as such. So if you stuck around this long, I appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you guys. Thanks so much for sticking with me and watching the video. If you found the information in the video helpful and informative, please do smash that like button. Also consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, to help my channel to continue to grow. Keep it locked right here at Lawrence's Let's Plays for additional Watcher Realms content coming your way very soon. Nothing left to say. This has been Lawrence from Lawrence's Let's Plays, and I, after almost 2 hours, am out of here. Ow, I just hit my face against the microphone. Take care, everybody. I'll see you real soon.